unexplainable, paranormal, conspiracies, and much more. Starring your host and co-host, Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, Chris Lowe, and Jason Sledgehammer Ryan Petro. Brought to you by UPRN Network. Now for your host, Jenny Nicasio.
Good evening and welcome to Chasing Prophecy on the UPRN FM 105.3 New Orleans network, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. Remember to like us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and like us too. Oh, we have an interesting show tonight. Stan Gordon is back in the house. We're going to discuss odd incidents reported throughout the year with the surge of activity since October and into the new year, guys. So stay tuned later in the show. Also, we'll be discussing red chemtrails that we didn't get to last week, Moundsville Penitentiary. We're going to talk about Elon Musk and AL technology. And of course, Chasing Prophecy off topic. So make sure you have your topics, guys. And you can post in the chat and comment and be involved in the conversation, or you can call into the show at 985-747-3817. But first, we have a word from our sponsor. This segment is brought to you by my friends at Old Timey Crimey. Old Timey Crimey is an historical true crime podcast hosted by Chrissy and Amber. They have over 150 episodes ranging from infamous crimes like those of Jack the Ripper. They like to dig into the weird, wild with details and facts. What I like most about this show is their energy and humor while telling a good crime story. Like Chicago, 1933, a young man is kidnapped and his family will go to great lengths to get them back. And one of my favorites is when Chrissy tells Amber the story of Mary Avery, a little girl with the best nickname ever. Mary tore up the streets of San Francisco in the late 1800s. Or, Sean, this is one of your favorites, the Great Train Robbery of 1915, when three men try to pull off a daring train heist in West Virginia. One last big haul and missed the mark by a lot. If you enjoyed our paranormal investigation showing the crime and the history of the hauntings, you're going to love Old Timey Crimey. True crime is better in black and white, with over 150 episodes full length to bonus mini episodes. There's plenty to binge on a Saturday night. You can find a link on our social media platforms and a sample on our website, Old Timey Crimey, where they know that the good old days weren't always good. Thanks, gals. Okay, so how you guys doing tonight?
We're hanging in.
Happy Torture Tuesday.
Wow. Did everybody have a wonderful Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
Yes.
What? I'm celebrating National Singles Awareness Day today. It's the 15th.
Me too.
Yeah. I didn't even know there was one.
Yeah, it's today.
Oh, damn.
Well, everybody that's single, there you go. Huh, Trish?
Well, you know what? You know what was crazy this year? Now, I've been in the supermarket meat cutting business for 22 years. And every year at Valentine's Day, you have these young guys come up to me, and you can tell they're wanting to buy some meat in order to impress their girlfriends or their wives. And I give them the whole menu, you know, and it was like religiously. They do it every Valentine's Day. But here was the creepy thing this year. Not one guy bought no food or meat in order to cook his girlfriend or his wife a meal this year. And it was kind of strange, you know. And my customers on Valentine's Day, they weren't happy people. You know what I mean? They were miserable.
Oh,
and I'm like, damn, come on.
There's a lot of miserable people out there, I guess, when they're single. I don't know.
But it's just like, honest to Pete, no one took the time out. I mean, guys used to really, spend at least a half hour, 45 minutes just to pick out a single, you know, what to cook for their girlfriends and shit. Nobody What to share? I'm a little down.
What'd you do, Jason?
I actually made a nice steak dinner last night. We had some nice steaks and baked potatoes and fresh cut asparagus and cooked it all up.
Wow, there you go.
So when my wife got home from picking up the baby, dinner was ready. And had some
Well,
wine
aren't you
out.
that was
Yeah.
nice. She's a
It
lucky
was pretty
one,
good.
huh?
It was pretty good.
Hell yeah.
Heck
Hell
yeah.
she's lucky. She's a good girl.
I'm lucky.
There you are.
Jenny just disappeared.
Oh, she's gone.
I guess that was enough Valentine's talk for her.
Yeah. So how you guys been? I mean, it's been a week. How'd your show go on Monday, Trish?
Good. I had Flood from XV Planus on again. That we had him on our show back in January, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun. Other than that, I worked all day. That's it. That was my Valentine's. Do you think it's a collective energy, like negative energy in the world because of everything going on right now? So it spreads,
Right. No, I believe you, But I'm going to tell you something interesting, a little bit off the topic here, just a tad. Maybe it's part of it. But I left work today at 6 o'clock and I looked up in the sky and there was a ton of chemtrails going on in the sky. Honest to God.
Yeah.
There had to be about 14 to 15 of them in the sky. And I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here?
It's a full moon.
Yeah, that too.
Every
I
full
saw.
moon.
Well, our full moon here is like really, really bright. Really,
Yeah.
really bright. Yeah.
And that affects people's. It's in Leo today, but I believe yesterday was Cancer, I think. And so Cancer brings a lot of emotions.
Welcome back, Jenny. We're not talking about Valentine's anymore.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Trish.
Yeah, I just got Stan on the phone, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. And just give me 1 second. Okay, so we got our guest, Stan Gordon, back with us. Stan has been researching UFO sightings, Bigfoot encounters, and other mysterious events in Pennsylvania since 1959. Since then, he's been involved with the investigation of thousands of unusual events. He is the primary investigator of the 1965 UFO crash incidents that occurred in Kecksburg. Welcome back to Chasing Prophecy, Stan.
Thanks for having me back on.
Great.
Hey, Stan.
Stan the man. Thanks for coming in.
So, Stan, tell us what's going on.
Well, it's been a really interesting last few years. Last year was very, very active. We had multitudes of UFO sightings, some Bigfoot activity, some other cryptid reports. We had reports every month of the year. And it was very, very fascinating. But what was really interesting, what has been very interesting, was that normally year after year, generally when fall and then winter comes in, reports generally begin to dwindle. But for whatever reason, October through December and now into the early 2022, it's been just steady reports and a lot of very interesting UFO reports in the greater Pittsburgh area. Not just lights in the sky, but we're getting reports of unusual objects seen at very low level, low to the ground in some cases, solid objects. We're having some other interesting things going on. So it's been very, very interesting.
Stan, tell us about the pulsating UFO reports that you have gotten. The odd incidents that that were reported to. Wasn't there a video that you got?
I think the one you showed, that was actually from one of my research associates down in West Virginia who had, that's posted on there, and that just happened recently in West Virginia. And we were having some similar reports as well. But, actually, I'll tell you about a few of the cases. There are so many. We could spend probably a couple hours talking about some of the recent cases, but some are kind of interesting. And what also we're receiving is some of these odd cloud-like objects that every once in a while over the years we receive these reports, and also we receive reports of unusual solid objects, even in daylight sometimes, entering clouds but never exiting the clouds, or the cloud dissipates and the object's not there. But here was one interesting one happened October 24th last year. This was in the afternoon on Route 119 between Scottsdale and Mount Pleasant. And this fellow's riding down that road, that busy highway, and all of a sudden he notices several cars in front of him all hitting their brakes at the same time. And apparently they're watching what he's seeing. It was a cloudy and overcast at the time, and it was a lot of gray clouds in the sky. But there was this one particular round cloud, was lighter in color than the other surrounding clouds. It was about as big as a school bus. It looked in the sky. It wasn't that high off the ground, but it was making these erratic movements right and left, up and down, moving around in the sky. He said it was almost like a school of fish moving around, following a lead fish. And he had to pass underneath, go under one of the bypasses there. And when he came out, it was gone. And we've had some other reports as well from other people reporting things like that. But some of the other reports we're getting are really intriguing. We've had a lot of reports in the last year of large cigar-shaped objects, many daylight reports here in Pennsylvania. There have been some pictures taken. We've had quite a number of triangular-shaped UFO reports coming in from different locations as well. And then what's also fascinating, this is something a lot of people are not aware of, but it's happening more and more. And I started investigating back in the 1960s what I call mini UFO reports. And they're very fascinating. These objects are not high in the sky, but what's so interesting is they're low to the ground. They sometimes approach people very closely. The smallest ones kind of look like oversized fireflies, lightning bugs, about an inch or two in diameter. Sometimes I've been told that when there's a group of moving around, they actually illuminate the surrounding area as they're moving. And but the majority of them are about 1 to 2 feet in diameter. Some a little bigger, generally spherical, not always, but most times they're spherical. Sometimes they're solid metallic looking. In other cases, they're just brilliant spheres of various luminous colors. And I've had many cases of these. These have been reported even in recent weeks. I've had reports, or numerous reports last year. They're going year after year, but you don't hear a lot about it. I've had cases where they paced vehicles. I've had them enter people's homes and cars through open windows that sometimes go out through the window or right through the walls of the house. I've had them reportedly appear in people's homes. And these are fascinating. But what makes it even more interesting is, and this is something I was investigating in those cases back in the 70s around here when we had that massive UFO Bigfoot wave in 73 and 74, some of this was starting to turn up. But in more recent years, here in Pennsylvania and around the country, in areas where we have a lot of history of Bigfoot encounters, researchers and other people are reporting seeing these small spheres or orbs of light in the trees, low to the ground, sometimes approaching closely. And so there seems to be some interaction between some of the Bigfoot phenomena and some of these strange light sources as well. So it's just one of many very unusual aspects of the Bigfoot mystery that I've been looking into in more recent years.
Wow. What do you think about that?
So, real quick, I want to ask you, you mentioned 119. You said Scottsdale area, correct?
Pleasant, Scottsdale, yes.
The reason I was just asking is because I drive a truck, and several times a week I'm on 119, multiple times a day, from like Connellsville to Greensburg. So I go past the Scottsdale, and it's ironic because I'm always like looking up at the sky because you could just see so much of it, just like wondering if one day I'll see something. But now that you're saying that people are making claims to seeing something back in October, I'm definitely really going to keep my eyes open, from now on when I go out there.
Well, also, now you've got to remember that a lot of, even though we get sporadic reports from all different areas, there's probably not an area around where we haven't had reports. And again, a lot of reports in the last year or so, all through the greater Pittsburgh area, including some of the metropolitan areas as well, and populated areas. But historically, a lot of UFO activity and Bigfoot activity, in fact, occurs commonly along the areas on and along and bordering along the Chestnut Ridge. So now when you're getting out to those areas, you're getting into the Chestnut Ridge area, getting close. And that's very fascinating as well. So there have been actually sightings for years along Route 119. I mean, we've had some significant cases, the past 20, 30 years, all along that general area. And so that's very fascinating. And there have been many, many sightings down around Scottsdale, from Connersville, and then going up through Fayette County. That's a very, very busy area. There was another report here. I'm just trying to find. I've got a lot of files here. And that report was interesting. I had just told you about. But again, there were many, many more. And it was about a week or so later, as I recall. And this would have been in an area not too far from there. So over towards Norvelt, over more towards Mount Pleasant Township. Now, this was about early November of last year now. So here's another man that evening is riding down a back road, and he sees this very bright round light in the sky with a red tinge. Now, this was a little higher, but he estimated around 2,000 feet off the ground, which still wasn't that high. And he said this thing was huge. He said it was as big as a house. And they watched for several minutes, but he was chasing it around as it was moving. And he was able to get a picture of it. And it ended up being very close to that area that I just told you about off of 119, where that other person had reported that other incident as well. But there were many, many reports. We've had low-level reports of large triangular objects being seen. Again, one case in Fayette County was very, very low off the ground. And something else is very, very fascinating among the reports. I believe it was October last year. I was talking to Dan Hagman, the BORU group up in Butler County, and he had a report, and he's had a lot of sightings up there too in the last year in Butler County, by the way, which has always had a lot of history of incidents. I was up there in the 60s, there were incidents going on. But anyhow, in October, he had a report of a Bigfoot sighting, and I believe he told me that within the hour, there were other people calling it about seeing this very large triangular object in the same area. And what was really fascinating was that he reported some of those people apparently who were in the vicinity of that object, that they felt like a static charge when they were close by. Well, that was fascinating because later in November, I received another report, and this was in Fayette County, also pretty close to the ridge. And this was it was on Route 119, believe it or not, again, another part of 119. And to make the story short, they're riding down the road. They see this object hovering off the side of the road. And as this person gets closer, this is described as like kind of a rounded triangular object. And there were non-blinking orange and yellow lights on it. They were about as big as a large dinner plate. And this thing was hovering only about 30 feet off the ground, and this person had to pass pretty close near it and got a very, very good look at this thing. But that person also had a dog with him in the car, and the dog was watching this thing, and the person was petting the dog and also got a static charge, which again, you've got a lot of electromagnetic effects over the years with UFOs where you have power loss or the headlights go dim, the object moves away, the power comes back on. But this is a little different. And then to make it even more intriguing, one of my research associates is investigating another case down in Fayette County, and it just happened, this just happened the second week of January of this year. And it was fascinating too, because here's this object, very early morning hours, this person goes outside and sees this unusual looking object hovering, and she runs into her house to grab a camera, and when she touches the door handle, she gets a static charge. And when she goes back out, she gets another static charge. And when she went outside, the object was gone, unfortunately. But so here we had 3 cases within weeks of objects that are fairly close by, and all 3 cases, they were reporting static charges, which is something that's just very unusual.
Do you think it has something to do with any kind of a storm in the area, or do you just think it's because of the craft that the sighting?
There was no weather conditions.
There was no weather conditions. Wow.
Nothing like that. We had no storms at the time. We checked those things out, and no, there wasn't. In fact, Jim Brown, who's a very, very good researcher, He's a very high-tech person. He has some very good quality instrumentation. He got down to that area within the hour after it happened, and he was able to check everything out. And there was nothing he could find within the house or any reason for the static charge at that time.
What do you think about that, Cherish?
Well, a few things. I was going to say they remind. I looked up because I saw this a long time ago about John Glenn, the astronaut, on his first. I think it was his first orbit. He saw a series of small particles floating that looked like little luminescent stars, and they've compared and they've been seen by astronauts since that, and they compared them to fireflies. So I thought that was interesting. But as far as the electrical charges, I know just yesterday or the day before, I'm sensitive to electricity. I don't know, redheads, whatever. But we get shocked a lot. But I kept getting 1859. And I looked it up, and 1859 was one of the largest geomagnetic storms ever recorded at that point in time in history. Do you think it's not like a weather storm, but like a geomagnetic storm?
I haven't looked into that, but I've not seen any data suggesting that. I'm not aware of anything like that. I mean, there are times when there's solar flares. You have things a lot, that type of thing going on. But so far in these reports, these particular ones, these seems to be directly related to the object that was close by, which is what's really interesting. And also, one of the patterns I found years and years ago, which is still ongoing, is that many close-range, low-level UFO sightings and also encounters with Bigfoot and other cryptids, and many here in Pennsylvania, are commonly reported in the vicinity of high-energy sources.
But then again, that proves my theory. That proves my theory.
Radio, TV, cell phone towers, high-tension power lines, power plants, railroad tracks, bodies of water, gas lines, and that's something that continues to be reported. And whatever was involved, and it's very, very complex. I began to find a lot of very strange things over the years associated with the Bigfoot phenomenon and UFOs. And there's so many very strange accounts we have from so many credible people over the years with Bigfoot. Because, when I started this so many years ago, I started investigating Bigfoot sightings back in the 1960s in Pennsylvania. And I was, at that point, I thought we were dealing with some type of unknown animal. And then you had that massive outbreak here in Pennsylvania with UFOs and then with Bigfoot that went on for weeks and months. And many of the sightings were close range and daylight. And then we had those significant cases where you had a UFO and a Bigfoot seen together at the same time and place. And then you had that one famous case north of Pittsburgh in September of '73 where you had the two witnesses that saw the 7 foot white hairy covered Bigfoot walking across the road towards the woods, and one of his hands was carrying a glowing ball of light. And these glowing balls of light are now more and more being reported again in connection with some Bigfoot activity. It's a long, complex phenomena, and there's so much we just don't understand. I don't think anybody understands, including the government.
That's crazy. What do you think about that, Trish?
Well, anything with power grids, cell phone towers, water, railroad tracks, that's all more energy. It's all the elements. So that makes sense. But I was going to say my own experience when numerous times when I witnessed UFOs and all of my neighbors in a specific subdivision I used to live in, we were right next to a power grid. And when I would be coming home from work at night, it would be lit up on those specific nights that UFOs would be spotted, like glowing the entire power grid because it was on a hill, which was interesting. It was like something from a movie. But we were also right next to a river, and there was almost a gas explosion actually one of those times in my neighborhood because there was a major line running through there as well. So that's interesting.
If you have a question for Stan, you can give us a call at 985-747-3817. I posted in the chat if you happen to be watching on YouTube or on Facebook. And if you're in any New Orleans or anywhere around the country, if you have a comment or question for Stan, it's 985-747-3817. This is so many amazing stories, Stan.
And there's so much going on that's just so strange and unusual. And what I started to say was that when I started investigating Bigfoot sightings in the early 70s, I thought these were some type of unknown primate. But as time went on, especially during the 70s and then in the years since then, there have been so many cases that are so strange with Bigfoot. And what I started writing about back in the 70s, well, now in more recent years, you're hearing a lot more about this now from other witnesses, from other researchers all around the country and around the world of the same thing going on. There is more and more data that indicates that whatever at least some of these Bigfoot creatures are, is that they do things that normal flesh and blood animals do not do. And one of the first things we found when we had all these sightings going on in '73, and I had my first research group. That was the Westmoreland County UFO Study Group, and the group involved a lot of volunteers, and most of them were professionals. We had scientists and engineers, technicians, police officers, former military people, and we were out there day and night investigating cases. And we would get out to some of these locations, and there'd be trails of these large, unusual footprints with big strides between them that would go for a distance and then just suddenly stop abruptly, and there was no more trek, even in fresh snow. And that continues to go on year after year. And that was one of the first things that began to make our eyes open. There's something here going on that's very unusual. And then the reports got stranger and stranger. And then we had those cases with UFOs and Bigfoot seen together at the same time and place. And again, when I get into some of these cases I've talked about over the years, and I'm not suggesting that Bigfoot is a passenger or pilot in a spacecraft from another planet, because we don't know what we're dealing with. And it may well be that we're dealing with more than one source for the unknown category of the UFO mystery. And the more I know about this phenomena, with a lot of UFO cases are reported, with cryptid cases, these seem to be both physical and non-physical at times. They can leave physical evidence and they're gone, they come and they go. But I think, for a lack of a better term, a lot of what we're dealing with might well be interdimensional.
Interdimensional.
And I've been saying that. I've been saying that.
Pap's awake
for a long time. No, I've been awake. No, I've been saying that forever, and everybody laughs at me. And I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking to other people who study UFOs and Bigfoot. I have no doubt in my mind, in my heart, I do believe that them two are related and them two work together. And I'll let it go for now.
Well, I don't know if we've ever talked about the one case up in Fayette County during that massive wave in '73, '74 that was a convincing case to me and my teams that we're dealing with something with Bigfoot and UFOs that is just really unusual. Would you like me to tell you that story?
Yes.
Sure.
Right. So it's February 6, 1974. And I don't know if some of you may have been around at the time, or you might remember, but the reason a lot of people remember is there was a big national trucker strike.
Yeah.
There was gas rationing across the country.
Mm-hmm.
There was some violence on the highways around the country and in Pennsylvania. So the National Guard and the state police were patrolling together. There were members of both units that actually responded to this incident. I couldn't get up to the scene because I couldn't get gas that evening in Greensburg. But anyhow, what happened was, so this is deep in the mountains, up in the direction towards Ohiopyle, where there have been a lot of Bigfoot sightings for years, and there still is. And this lady's in a little cabin home. She lived there all her life. She knew animals very well. She was a very good shot. And she was sitting there watching TV that evening. And she began to hear this little noise on her front porch. She had some empty pop cans out there, and something is knocking the pop cans around. So she thought, you know what? There was a pack of wild dogs here a few weeks ago. I bet you those dogs are back. So she thought, I'll grab my shotgun, I'll load one chamber, and I'll fire over their head. I'll scare those dogs away. So she proceeds to grab her shotgun. She loads one chamber. She walks over to the front. She opens up the porch door and turns on the switch for the front light. She steps out, and there's no dogs there, but I believe about 6 feet in front of her, here's this about 7 foot tall, hair covered Bigfoot, put his arm straight up over his head as soon as she turned the light on, and she's standing right in front of it, and she fires right into it. There's this bright burst of light, like the flash on a camera, and the creature physically vanishes and disappears right in front of her. But that's not the end of the story. So her in-laws lived about 100 feet away. They hear the gunshot. They call on the phone and ask her what happened. She tried to tell them. The son-in-law grabs his sidearm, starts walking down that dark road towards the cabin. He sees a figure running ahead of him, and then he said he's surrounded by 4 or 5 airy people with eyes like coals of fire, starts shooting at them randomly, runs back into the cabin, and about the same time there's this large object, like a big Christmas ornament, I was told, hovering over the trees at the same time. So that's when they called the state police. And I talked to the main investigating officer, and he said by the time they got up there, everything was gone, but he said something very strange happened at that scene. He said when they got up there, these people had several big dogs, they had other farm animals, everything was quiet. The dogs wouldn't bark, they wouldn't make a sound, and that's very common with many cases we have where even the most ferocious dogs near a Bigfoot generally won't make a sound, they don't move, they don't bark. That's very common. So that was the case that convinced me, among others that later happened, that we're dealing with something that has a physical and a non-physical component to it.
That's pretty interesting.
It's amazing how the animals can pick up things that we don't see.
Yeah,
Do you think it's
that's very
ever
common.
possible
Lots
for
of reports we have with both UFOs and Bigfoot, including recent reports where there were animals disturbed by UFOs hovering low to the ground. One just happened a few weeks ago outside of Pittsburgh, and this stuff is going on. It goes on so much more often than people realize. You don't hear about it in the news because 99% of the people that report these things want no publicity. And I deal with these cases regularly, all the time. And a lot of these are current reports, or some are older reports that people didn't report in. And most of these people would never believe these things exist until they had their own personal experience. And many of them, it's been a life-changing experience for them.
I would say it would be. Stan, I have to make a short break. Can you stay on after the break? It's only going to take me about a minute.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Then we're just going to. This segment is brought to you by Focus, and I'm going to play a short video. Remember last week we were talking about the my rant on sugar, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit more in this next minute. So I want to see if it's going to. We were talking last week before about how sugar really is horrible and how it messes with you. Not only does it mess with your teeth, it's addicting, and it took me a month to wean off of it from my holiday indulgence. You know that. We consume too much sugar through beverages like energy drinks, sodas, coffee, and 80% of the health issues stem from bad choices we make in our diet and sugar. You all know, like I've been doing keto and I did the 30-day challenge with carnivore, and I've been trying to stay away from cola, but it's really hard to do. I have not found a caffeinated sparkling water until I found Focus. Have you guys heard of Focus?
Nope.
Nope, you haven't heard of it?
Nope.
Well, I'm going to tell you a real short little spew from okay, and I think we're having an echo here, but I'm sorry about that. I found it to be a caffeinated drink, and it's sparkling water, and I love it. And I just want to let you know the Focus is better than any other energy drink that you can get. The other is 75 milligrams of caffeine, 0 sugar, and 0 sweeteners. Seriously, guys, if you haven't tried it, Focus is a delicious, health-conscious, thoroughly caffeinated sparkling water infused with boost of natural tea caffeine, and balance of L-lithium, and you can get clean energy from it. So, you know, we probably had some already because I'm a little, no, You won't get that with this. It's jitter free. So, I like to drink a lot of caffeine. So, and I can't spill out the words, but Jason, you know that. What I like about Focus is that the fact that Focus provides you with jitter free boost compared to any other caffeinated sugary beverage. And what do you think about that? Simply made to boost balance and bubbles. It's non-GMO. So you can ditch the sugar and soda and energy. This will make you feel great, especially if you're on a workout. If you're doing intermittent fasting, you need to replenish your electrolytes. This will do the trick. It's natural caffeine derived from tea. Okay, so it'll give you that same boost of an 8-ounce cup of coffee in a refreshing, thirst-quenching form. So check it out. Your body needs water, and this will give it to you. Has a dozen, so many mixed berry, cola, cherry, root beer, crisp apple is my favorite. So this can be found on drinkfocus.com, and there's over 4,000 grocery stores. And if your grocery store doesn't have it, go talk to the manager and tell them to get it in. I got a discount code for you guys. It's Chasing Prophecy. It's $1 a can, making it $12 for a variety pack. So check it out on our Facebook page. You can hit the link. And remember, Chasing Prophecy is the code. Okie dokie pokies. We're back to the story. Go ahead, Stan. I'm sorry for bragging about my favorite caffeinated drink, but I love it. So let me ask you. Okay, we talked about the boom that we heard all over Pittsburgh. Do you remember the boom that we heard? The sonic.
Yeah, what was really interesting that a lot of the people out there have missed was the fact that there were two booms. I have it on their website. I wrote an article about it. There were two booms 2 days apart. I mean, just one day and one the next day. So you had one December 31st, which was the interesting one, but the one everybody was talking about occurred, I believe, was January 1st. And
11:30.
Anyhow, that's the one. And that's when we didn't have a lot of initial information. We were getting a lot of reports in the greater Pittsburgh area, so a lot of different areas around. But as more information came in, we began to get information that the boom was also felt in West Virginia, Ohio, and it began to look more and more like we are dealing with a bolide on this extraordinarily bright fireball meteor that at times can produce sonic booms. And there was enough data later on from information that came in that indicates that the big one that made a lot of news was very likely created by a fireball meteor. And we've had those happen in past years over Pennsylvania and other areas as well. But the one that was really intriguing, and so far we've still not been able to come up with a good explanation for it. That was the one that occurred December 31st. And that one occurred mainly in areas north of Latrobe, or through Derry Township, all through that area, up into around Blairsville, up into Indiana County, so about a 20-mile area. That was around, I believe, around 1:30 in the afternoon. And so that was pretty interesting. And so that's the one that, again, we still don't have an explanation for. Every once in a while, we get these mystery booms. And over the years, we've been able to find explanations for some of them. Sometimes in the wintertime, when you have the freezing conditions, you have what they call a frostquake that produce one in an area. Sometimes, you could have a sonic boom from an aircraft, which is very rare in this area. Sometimes it's meteorological. There have been earthquakes around here. And so there's various explanations, but back in the 60s, when I started investigating these cases, they called them skyquakes. And in fact, there's so many of these happening. Another big one occurred, I think, about a week ago. I think it was a Monday afternoon in New Jersey, right outside of Pennsylvania, that was making a lot of news down there. Last I heard, and I haven't seen anything about it since, but they were not able to come up with an explanation. But there's whole websites out there devoted to these mystery booms that are occurring more and more around the country and around the world.
What do you think they are?
Well, that's I was just saying that sometimes there's explanations for them, and sometimes there is not.
What do you think it is?
I really am not sure.
I know what I think it is.
What do you think it is,
What
Jen?
is
I just think there's just so much. There's so much in the atmosphere right now that a lot of people. I know this is a very controversy topic, but I think we're getting close to the apocalypse, and I think that those are like portals that are opening up. I think a lot of it has to do with that. I mean, I know I'm a Christian and I believe that, but I don't know what you guys believe. I just think that there's too many. Well, the trumpets. You know, the trumpets in Revelation, how they talk about it.
Was it Gabriel's or something?
that? Was
Yeah.
Gabriel's.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard trumpets. I don't know if you've heard the trumpets. I've heard the trumpets.
There was no trumpets down here.
But you know what? If you heard the trumpets, there's some YouTube videos where people are actually, manipulating the sound of.
You mean
trumpets.
like a Project Blue Book?
No. These they're over in Russia, Ukraine, over around in that area, where they show you on YouTube where they're actually manipulating the sound of trumpets.
Okay, would some people even think that, I know that there's some kind of a UFO mothership. I don't know, Stan, if you heard that story, that sometimes they open up the dimension or some kind of a portal that they open up or beam, and it makes
Did
that
you watch
loud
Independence Day?
noise. Yeah, I did. I don't know. I just find it, there's too many strange things that are happening lately. And now they're talking about all these asteroids and how they're going to try to blow them up. And it seems like they must be getting so close that they're really worried about it. And do you think maybe that's what we're hearing? Maybe you trying these out, experimenting with them?
And these mystery booms, like a lot of these other phenomena, they're not new. These things have been going for years and years. I mean, UFO sightings, in our recent history, sightings of strange objects in the sky go back to at least the late 1800s, and there's many people who believe they went back many, many years before that, even in biblical references. You have Bigfoot sightings, they've been around for years and years. The Native Americans talked about it. There's articles in newspapers in the 1800s in Pennsylvania. They don't call them Bigfoot back then, they call them the wild man of the woods or the wild man of the forest. And a lot of these other strange things are going they're not something that's more recent, but the interesting thing is there's a lot of activity has been going on. I mean, it has been very busy. I'm getting Thunderbird reports of these huge flying creatures. There's been a number of sightings last year. It's on my website. You can read about them. Some are really significant sightings. Most of them are in daylight.
Yes.
And some have been at very, very close range. And these people swear. I talked to a guy, called me about one that happened a few weeks ago. He's been hunting since he was a little kid, and he said, I can't believe I saw what I saw. I talked to another person, actually called me from out of state a few days ago, saw one in the early evening out of state, didn't know about the sighting I had here in Pennsylvania. And this person, I would say was a pretty much a near professional ornithologist who studied birds and just could not believe that this person saw what they saw. So you're talking in these other cases, the estimates are around a 15-foot wingspan. And I had one case that was really good case happened in neighboring West Virginia. This was back 2008 on a two-lane country road. Guy's riding down there early morning, has to hit his brakes. There's this huge, giant flying creature on the ground eating roadkill. It stood at least 4 feet tall. It was taller than the top of his vehicle. Its wings were spread out, and it's flapping its wings trying to get off the ground. So it's only a two-lane road. He can see the wingtips. So he can see the dust and dirt going up off the road as it's trying to raise itself off the ground, which it finally did. He went back the next day and measured the width of the road. It was 21 feet across.
Yeah, if you have to see, I've seen one. I seen one about probably 10 years ago. It was on a country road. It was on the top of an ice cream farm. Like they have an ice cream store, but it was right in the middle of the farmland. And I've seen it. It's scary. It will stay with me the rest of my life. I've seen it before.
What area was that in?
That was in Westmoreland County.
give me a better idea? Because I've had many reports.
Do you know where it's like Irwin? You know where Shram's farm is?
Yeah, and I've had reports in that area, down around Hermione, down around Irwin, Jeanette.
Mm-hmm.
There have been reports all through that area. There was an interesting incident, a daylight sighting in Monroeville a couple years ago, right over top of the trees, very, very low. But again, you don't hear about the stories on the news because most people want no publicity.
They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to be like, look at that crazy person seeing
Thunderbird. Now, have you ever dealt with people who witness these things that aren't afraid of not being called a dummy and try to get it on the news? Will the news post it? Will they print it?
I couldn't hear if he was talking to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was asking you. Do you think? Go ahead and repeat it again, Sean. I turned you up.
Oh, you tuned me up. Why?
Oh, I turned you up. I don't know why. I couldn't hear you either.
Man, damn. Turn me up. What I'm saying, Stan, what I'm saying is, did you ever get a client who witnessed something and they weren't afraid to, put it in the news?
I've been doing this for a long, long time, over 60 years. And over many, many years, in fact, long before we had the internet, the local papers would cover these stories quite often.
There was a time before the internet?
And now if somebody placed a report, back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and the times mainly before we had the internet as we know it today, a lot of people, they would call the local police or they would call the news media to see if anybody had seen anything. And then I would hear about a lot of these reports. And there were many, many stories during the 73 Bigfoot outbreak. Many, many local papers were carrying serious stories about what was going on. Or if you look at my Solid Invasion book, there's many references to the many newspaper stories around Pennsylvania that cover those stories. So they were covered in the Pittsburgh papers and the Greensburg Tribune Review, some of them, Latrobe Bulletin. And all over this area there were reports. And some of these made the statewide news and some made national news. So yes, some of these cases have been covered. But things have changed a lot, and people now, they contact people through the internet sometimes. My hotline, which was open in 1969, it never stops ringing. I get calls on these things all the time. And but there have been some newspaper stories, where they still cover it. So some of the local papers still do stories, and occasionally somebody will come forward and talk about what they've seen. And there have been some incidents from other parts of the state where one fellow was, I think, a mayor of a town in Pennsylvania a few months ago, and his local destroying his Bigfoot sighting, or a Bigfoot encounter.
Trish, what do you think?
Oh, I was going to say on the sonic booms, or here anyways, there were 2 today, which was ironic, but it was funny because I knew I was actually sitting by a Sonic, the drive-in before, and I kept thinking, go home, because my heart, they affect it. But there were 2, and usually they report, but they didn't sound like the normal sonic booms because it was back in 2020, the Kansas Supersonic Transportation Corridor, with some agreement they signed to, but it was all kind of kept quiet that they were going to start researching. They said it's kind of like the space program in some ways, but there's actually that they're bringing back specific, they called them sonic booms. So, but what I also always find fascinating with everybody in Pennsylvania is you mentioned Westmoreland and everything, a lot of things mirror Kansas and Pennsylvania. And we have a Westmoreland right, down the road. So all these same things happen. Actually, it seems like Kansas got them before Pennsylvania, though, because we've had chemtrails and stuff for years, too.
That's crazy. Well, Stan, you have so much to talk about. So where do you go from here? Do you just keep getting the, calls on your site? Have you gone out to see any of the locations that people saw sightings?
Well, that's what I did for years and years with my teams. I mean, when we get not every, today's a lot different. There's a lot of things people report that you can easily explain. There's a lot, while there's sightings going every year that are not easily dismissed and you cannot explain, there's also many, many UFO reports in particular, and even with Bigfoot, there's a lot of misidentification. But with UFOs, you've got bright planets and stars. With the atmospheric conditions, they get brighter and dimmer and look like they're moving around. We've got a lot of reports of the Starlink satellites in the area. People are calling in as UFOs. We have reentry of space debris on occasion. We have had some big fireball meteors come over. We've searchlights. We have meteorological incidents. We had some ice pillar reports a few weeks ago when you see these vertical columns of light in the morning. There's a lot of things that look strange that you can explain. So not every case warrants going out. Mm-hmm. And over the years, I've gone out many, many cases. I don't get out as good as I used to anymore. I get out when I can, but I have I don't have my groups anymore, but I have other contact with other good researchers out there who are able to get out and follow up on some cases that need followed up. So I interview people regularly. I keep records of all these cases. I look at the similarities and the patterns. And so I'm very busy all the time dealing with these subjects.
Do you think we're getting closer to having a direct contact with one of these beings or UFOs or even Bigfoot? Do you think we're ever going to get in contact that we can actually sit down and have a conversation with them?
Well, that's something we can speculate for a long time. There's so many stories out there from around the world, so many interesting things. These sightings go on all over the world, week after week. Bigfoot sightings go on. You got Thunderbirds. You got other weird creature reports we get here in Pennsylvania and around the country. There is so much that goes on, and yes, it's been very, very active. And of course now, if you've been watching the news in recent months, you probably are aware now that the Pentagon, the U.S. government, is now officially opening up a new office to investigate UFO sightings. So it's opened the door a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now they're at least admitting there are objects in the sky that they cannot identify. They're taking it much more seriously. And, you had congressmen on Democrats and Republicans both who were really interested in this, pushing to get this done. And now it is being done. So in the weeks ahead, months ahead, I'm sure you'll hear more on the news about it. We'll have to wait and see how open they'll be with the public and with Congress. We're hopeful because we've seen in past UFO investigation cases the Air Force did that there was a lot of information that the public never heard about and never will. There was a lot of classified information, which I'm sure there's going to be a lot of classified information we're probably still not going to hear about. But at least it's an opening that now they're at least admitting that there are incidents going on out there, that military personnel, Navy personnel are seeing these things. There's things maneuvering around the ships out in the ocean, and Navy pilots are seeing them. But it goes far beyond that. I mean, over the years, I've interviewed numerous commercial pilots, private pilots, corporate pilots who have seen these things over Pennsylvania. And again, this is a phenomena that is ongoing. It goes on year after year, all year round. These things are all going on. And if anybody out there wants to talk with me, they can go to my website, stangordon.info. All my contact information's on there. And I'll be glad to talk with them, or they can share their experience if they like.
Well, it sounds good to me. Well, thank you so much for coming back on. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam.
Yes, thank you, Stan.
Thank you, Sam. You have a lot of information, interesting information. We'll be staying close to you. You have a great night.
All right. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Very interesting. I have to say, I always like listening to Stan Gordon. He has so many years of experience in this phenomenon.
Over 60 years.
I know. It's like,
Sean,
wow.
you're getting there. You're at 31.
Yeah, I'm at 31.
You're at 31 years experience.
If I live to be another 29 years.
You're not going to make it.
No, I don't think so
Let's just
either. I
be
don't want to
honest.
make it, man. God.
I've seen you eat. It's going to kill you.
Oh, man. No, I've been losing weight. I don't do the keto, or I don't do,
Did you take
carnivore
what?
shit.
Because I haven't noticed.
Hey, let me tell you.
No, seriously. I've been like watching what I'm eating.
You have to.
As you eat it, right?
You know, I don't know. It's good
No,
to
no.
watch. It's
Well,
because
see-
you longevity and you want to be healthy and you're going to have grandkids someday. You want to be able to run after them.
That never happened, Jenny. That will never happen. I'll
You're
be
never
sitting
gonna-
I'll be sitting on the porch, tossing the football at them. That's what I'm
You're not
doing.
going to get up and
Oh, hell no. Come on.
Well, if you're dropping all these pounds by the time they're here, you should be skinny as a twig. You'd be
Oh,
running
my
around.
God.
Can you imagine me, according to the American Medical Association,
Oh, here
for
we
my
go.
height? No, listen, seriously. I'm supposed to weigh 171
well, you don't have to
pounds.
go by that.
Well,
Yeah,
according
but that
to-
was also made back in like the 50s when everybody was a lot smaller.
well, they're still going with that.
Well, if you go by that, I don't believe in that insurance company things because everybody would be overweight. Even Trish would be
We
overweight.
are all morbidly obese.
we
I
are.
go
We
to
are.
the gym every day. I would be overweight.
We
if I-
are obese. I mean, you're
Well,
right, Jason.
if you go by them, because muscle weighs more than fat. Okay, you know, I don't know. I
I don't think I could be skinny. To be
I don't-
honest with you,
why do you want to be skinny?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
you
I-
don't want to be skinny. You gotta look like
I
Santa
just want to
Claus
be.
for
I
December.
just want to be fit and healthy. That's all. I want to be sexy and 60.
You got it already, so why worry about
You're
it?
so
Oh,
funny.
No,
you're
I'm
so
being
funny.
honest with you,
Oh,
Jenny. I'm
Okay.
being so honest
Just
with you.
accept who you are and live your
Yes,
life and
Jen,
be happy.
my
How about
God.
I like to be healthy, Trish.
You
Right?
remind me of Marilyn
Yes.
Monroe.
Oh
I
my
want my heart
God.
to live.
Yeah, you want to be. I like going to the gym. I'm addicted to it. I like to work out.
And I'll tell you
It's-
what about my gym experience. Okay, you want to go off
that. This
topic?
is 40 years ago.
No. This was like 2 or 3
You're a
years ago.
jackass.
Seriously, no, you didn't go to
Nah,
the gym
yes, I
for an
did.
investigation. We did. That was about it.
You had an
No,
investigation at a
you
gym?
know what? I'm in there, and I mean, I
wanna
see
hear
these
this.
dudes and dudettes running on the treadmill, doing all these things, and here I come in, 285 pounds, and it's like they look at me like, "Ooh, what are you doing here? You don't
Well, you're
belong
getting
here."
fit. You're getting fit. That's why you go
But
to the gym.
still, I get a complex about it. That
Well, you
to
should.
me, they're looking at me like, "What are you?"
I
here
think you
for?"
just assume they're looking at you.
Yeah.
Everybody
Oh,
goes
I
to the
know
gym
I'm
like
assuming. I'm
You
not
go to the
assuming.
gym
They do.
and
They
you go
turn
work
around
out
and-
is to be healthy.
right. So
Like
And they
nobody's
have-
gonna. Well, I mean, some people might, but who cares
mean,
what
if
they
you
think?
go to
But
the-
nobody. People usually
do
don't
it.
criticize other people that are actually at the gym because they're doing something. You
And they're
know, I
wearing
mean,
spandex and stuff. Yeah.
I don't know.
You can go to Planet Fitness. They don't, if you really want to go. But I mean,
You know what was crazy about gyms? I was going to work. I started at like 5 in the morning one time.
oh
and
yeah.
they're opened up, and there
Yeah,
was
I
like
used to go
30
5:30
cars
in
in
the
the
morning.
parking lot. 30 cars in the parking lot. I was like, damn.
Once you get
Yeah,
in the
I go
routine
for
of
a show
working
a
out
lot.
in the morning, you usually have more energy for the
I
day,
used
believe
to
it or
go
not.
out at 5:30 in the morning when my kids were still in bed, and I would go to the gym, but not anymore. I work out at home now. Well, anyways,
So-
getting back. Go ahead, Trish.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Well, about the. I was going to say something with the stand thing. Have you all? It made me think about sonic booms and water and the research they did about that, how far it penetrates into water. A few years ago, the Navy, there were all these reports and that they were killing fish and like dolphins and whales and stuff. Did you all hear about?
Yeah, I heard
about
about that.
And it was the frequency, the sound of it under the water that was throwing it off. But if that happens in the ocean and can penetrate water to a certain depth, humans are made of primarily water. So how do you think that would affect us?
It's a full moon.
Well, you know what, Trish? All I know is when all this weird stuff is going on, I'm acting like even today because it's a full moon. It's like I am so sensitive to all of what's going on out there, and I can see if there is the sonic boom and it has something to do with water. We're made, like you said, up of water. We're going to be affected by it somehow.
Especially if they do them like around a full moon. That's why I was thinking with my heart, and with AFib and stuff, because that triggers it a lot of the times. Not only just the full moon, but yeah, things like that.
No, do you know when you're
solar
having?
flares.
Do you know that can you feel that when you go into AFib or not?
Yeah, and it's
You can feel it.
always during these solar flares, power surges, full moon, things like that. So that's why I'm wondering how much, full moons, I'm sure they affect every animals and everything. If it can penetrate into the ocean that far, I'm sure it's affecting people as well.
Most definitely. I think it
yeah.
does. I think it affects us. And the full moon really affects me. Could feel it coming on 2 days ago. I was like so
Yeah, me too. It's the
agitated.
weirdest thing ever.
So agitated. I wanted to punch somebody. It's like
I
It's
agree
3
with
days
you.
before and 3 days after. So about 7 days in there.
this is just I just
Yeah,
want
it's
to.
weird. It's just like a whole week of chaos. And
Yeah,
anger.
It
It
is.
is.
Seriously, I'm like that, Jason. I get so angry, and so I can't listen
Oh, I
to
agree
the
with you. I just want to choke people out all day. Well, I want to do that every day as it is, anyways. But this week
So
more than most.
lately, it seems like there's certain times of the full moon, like it's like right before the full moon, like the day before, and then like I'm fine after tomorrow, I'll be fine. But today is like, oh my God. But leading up to the full moon is when I have a personality problem. That's what it's
Yeah.
Augie has a question. He goes,
Sure.
why does a full moon affect the way people act and behave? And I'll tell you why. Because, like Tristan, you said, our body's made up of 70% water. Okay.
Mhm.
And you know what it does when the full moon comes in? It affects the tides out there in the oceans. So it's actually affecting us on the inside.
Definitely. It does mess you up. Well, let's getting back on track. We're going to talk about some things that, well, one of them was the red chemtrails. Now, Trisha came up with some really interesting stuff about the chemtrails. Trish, you want to talk about that? What you posted today, was it yesterday, about the chemtrails in the cleft palettes?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
that was about Kansas. So the water, going back to water here, which is funny. It's crazy that I went grocery shopping this morning, and last week there was a water main break. This morning, 3 people stopped, just random strangers, while I was shopping, and talked about water in different areas. One guy was talking about how he had well water, and recently he just had to spend a lot of money to get that fixed or something. And then somebody else said they're going to start buying water. I mean, just out of the blue, just walked up to me and told me this randomly. They're going to start buying water from the local, it's like Lindy Spring or something, that distributes bottled water. And then the water main break. And I'm thinking, that's odd that's happened all within like 10 minutes.
Well, he's seriously about buying water, because you should stock up on the water. You don't know what's going to happen.
And I had just bought a big, I refill those big, like 5-gallon jugs. And,
well, getting the chemtrails. Now, there's this, a lot of people are seeing this red chemtrails. Now, when I think of red chemtrails, I think of pesticides. Now, there's thinking of other stuff. Has any of you guys heard about the chemtrails, especially the ones that are colored?
No, I'm not so much about the colored ones, but I did do a little research on chemtrails. And a lot of articles that I read from France, from Britain, and the United States, they're all claiming that there's nothing wrong with these chemtrails, that it's actually a plane releasing mist into the air. And
It's
I
from
was
their
like,
engines. Thank you.
yeah, so it's like, okay, so you see all these planes going on and releasing this stuff in the air, they're from their engines. But they said there's no way there is any biological warfare or whatever the government is trying to do.
Okay, well, why is there so many? Is it because there's
how many
so
planes
many?
there are today.
There's so many.
I remember that one time I did an investigation down in Charleroi, and I brought this up a long time ago, that it was like in the middle of winter time, and when I went out to have a smoke, there were actually 3 crosses, honest to God, like the big one and 2 small ones on the side with a chemtrail, and I'm thinking, what the hell? How did that happen?
Did you ever see a blue chemtrail?
Never did.
That's when planes are emptying the bathrooms.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
There's red, white, and blue, right? There
Yeah,
was
for
like
America.
there's a book about that
Red,
or
white, and
something.
blue.
So that's their
Yeah, just like Porta Johns. You got the
Oh
blue
my
mess
God.
water down there. So when you see blue ones, that's just planes releasing all that waste.
Okay,
Well-
so we just figure it's nothing to be worried about, that they're not
No.
okay.
No.
Okay.
So in Kansas, though, there was a report
Back in Kansas.
years ago. This is from 2010 because it was when California started doing the study of chemtrails, and Kansas does so many because we have all the farm. There's all the farmland and stuff.
All the farmland.
But they said what they're now breathing in. Ethylene, aluminum oxide, barium salts, mercury. What's all this? But all these things that cause, and I've noticed every time they do this around here, everybody's coughing and has asthma problems and all kinds of stuff. And then what I was telling you all about as far as the chemtrails over the fields with the pesticides and stuff, that's where it leaches into the food. So then they did studies. It starts affecting the livestock, obviously.
Yeah.
All of your wheat, all of your corn, all of your soy. And then Kansas, the water obviously drains the Kansas River, goes through Missouri all the way down south to the Gulf. So it goes to the ocean. We're one of the major, in the Midwest. I learned this at the zoo this summer. Actually, they had a study about the entire diagram of how much all of the chemicals and fertilizers and stuff that are put on the crops in the Midwest, where most of them are.
Don't you think all those chemicals are causing problems with birth defects? Just like
absolutely.
Rhonda just said, chemtrails can have bacteria, viruses, chemicals that can affect the environment, our crops, our children. Yeah, I think there's more to it than I have to disagree with you, Jason and Sean. I do think that something is going on because it seems like the more chemtrails there are in a certain area, there's more rising birth defects and cancers.
Yep.
So I'm with you, Trish, on that. So I'm sorry to tell you, Sean and Jason, but you're out.
Oh,
And
really?
that's so in the schools here, as far as reports on even cancer in young children, the cleft lips, cleft palates, things that are directly related to especially all the chemical, not the fertilizers, but the pesticides. That contaminates not just the water, the soil, everything. So the air, clearly.
So come back at you. All right. So as you were saying that all this caused all these defects to people and getting sick and stuff like that, then every single person has to have a cleft lip, correct?
No, that doesn't happen.
Why not? But
I got something on the chemtrails
here. What?
I'm just saying it causes the chemtrails.
While we're talking about chemtrails, we do all know that only appears when a plane is above 10,000 feet because of the fuel that's vaporizing, right? Okay. Everybody knows that, right? But when planes are below that altitude, you don't see it because obviously at a different altitude.
And Justin said air pollution kills about 5 million persons annually worldwide. We're going to continue on this, but first of all, I want to say thank you to our sponsors who's sponsoring this second hour of Chasing Prophecy. Is brought to you by Carnation. Thank you, Carnation.
Breakfast essentials.
Yeah. Have you tried the vanilla yet? Have you done the vanilla one yet?
No, I didn't, but I did finish the box, so I need to get another one. So,
okay.
And I hear voices behind me again.
Oh, there she is.
There she. Oh no, she's coming to knock the screen over again. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know. She's real needy lately. I don't know. Her sister's not doing well.
So, Trish, where can we get some more information on these chemtrails?
Well,
where can we actually research?
I want to know how they are all this other crap other than just fuel that's vaporizing. I want to know. I want to see proof that it's all a
Okay,
conversion.
well, me and Trish are going to find proof. And
Yeah,
we'll
there's
talk about that
actually
next week.
But there's also, I was going to say, the Weather Channel app, on most smartphones now, if you look up your city, your and most people don't pay attention to this, there's an air quality meter. And then there's also UV index, which is really good to pay attention to, because the UV index has to do with their studies on solar flares and everything like that. So it could be in Kansas over the summer. I was paying attention to this because it was harder to breathe. And they said for people, the air quality often alerted people with lung problems, heart problems, COPD, things like that. And the air quality here one time was over 150, 160 index. And that's like, they say over 100 is toxic to normal people without immune compromised, anything wrong with them, healthy people. And then, so it's harmful to them. So can you imagine what it's doing to, and these were days that people are out mowing their lawns and doing all, it would really affect them.
Sometimes that happens here. And I can't go outside. I can't breathe the air, and I'll get sick. And one time, I think it was a few summers ago in Western Pennsylvania, people woke up to this white stuff. It's like film over everything. It was on their porches, their cars, their lawn. It was not. We called the EPA to come out to see what it was, because it was everywhere. It was like there was like little balls, and it wasn't. It was. They found out that it was not hay fever. It was something from the atmosphere that was all over. You guys ever see it, Sean, Jason? It was a white film that was everywhere. Okay, well, we're going to move on to our next topic for this week. And it is the penitentiary. Did you happen to see that video that I posted about the Moundsville Penitentiary, guys?
I actually investigated the penitentiary a long time ago. I was trying to find a commercial. It was about 8 to 10 years ago. We did a commercial down there for WPXI. And during the shot, we were actually filming a commercial for their haunted house they got down there. And but in between shots, and they were setting up the other shot, we actually got to investigate the penitentiary. And to be honest with you, I didn't really pick anything up. I think it's all...
Okay, well, listen to this and let's see what you guys think. Okay, here it comes.
Murder and mystery as thousands of people flock to Moundsville to meet their fears dead in the eyes. Nestled behind ancient burial grounds and where near 1,000 deaths occurred, 7 News reporter Stephanie Grinley wanted to see for herself the stories of the Moundsville Penitentiary, and she took back with her footage that we just can't explain.
They begged to please don't let me die in here.
Huh?
Your 12,000 locals head to the pen each year to be scared for fun during the season when leaves shrivel and fall from the trees. But the true horror takes place when the costumes are in storage.
I've been here for 20 years, and the place is haunted. I'll tell you that.
The worst sort sat to wait out their days. Demise dreaded to be met inside these cold walls. 998 deaths occurred in the Moundsville Penitentiary. Souls, some say, still linger. Among the wretched lives murdered, a leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, William Red Snyder, was violently stabbed 37 times in his cell. It's in his cell, his voice, that people say they hear the most, but Red is not alone. May of 2004, a woman was staying the night at the pen. She heard a noise, saw a figure, and then captured something that now hangs in the museum.
There was a solid black shadow standing in front of this door, and it was looking right at her. It seemed to be transparent, and she said it actually looked down at the light on its chest, and the guy looked back at her. As if that's not strange enough, she continues walking backwards in the hall, raised her Sony camera. She took one photograph, and thankfully she captured the shadow that we call the Shadow Man.
Jason, our tour guide, is a spirit enthusiast, you might say. One eerie night of 2012, Jason was walking the dark halls in the North Wing, and something blocked the light from his flashlight. Maybe the same solid black shadow, this time ready for a close-up.
A human-like figure, best I could describe, walked out sideways from cell 17. and kind of stared me down for about 5 seconds, and I froze in fear because I thought I don't want to continue walking towards it. I don't want to turn my back on it. So a few moments later, I decided I'm going to walk out backwards. And the entire time I did that, I got out of sight around the corner. Whatever that thing was still standing there staring at me.
Did you hear that? Jason, Dan, our cameraman, and I stood alone on the 4th floor, the former psych ward. We didn't make that sound, but if not us, then who?
The people that don't believe me, I tell them, I say, come spend the night here. It's here. It's here.
In the Mansville Penitentiary for 7 News, I'm Stephanie Grindley, working for you.
I don't know, Sean. That kind of scared me.
Why is that scary? Me and Jason deal with that every time we go out and investigate.
So I think it's haunted.
Okay, yeah, it's haunted.
You said you didn't think it was haunted.
No, we didn't pick anything up when we were down there. The place that really creeped me out down in that whole place, there's a little chapel that sits out in the middle of the field. That creeped me out. But I mean, we got our cameras, we did everything we could, our EVPs, and
so you think it's a dud? You think
no, it's not dud. The place is haunted. I mean, you can feel it in the air. But me and Jason deal with that wherever we go.
Well, Jason, what do you think about Moundsville? You think it's
I personally haven't been there. It's definitely on my bucket list to check out, especially with all the equipment I have, run all kinds of different cameras and meters and whatever. And, I've caught a shadow man on actual camera before. I think it was on a Nikon D3300 in the cemetery. So I do believe, it's possible to catch up shadow figures, and, hopefully someday I can investigate the penitentiary and, actually see for myself if it's haunted or not, or if it's just old building noises and,
okay,
crazy lightings.
Well, we got a caller. Go ahead, caller. Hi, go ahead. I'm sorry, I had you on mute. Go ahead.
I said, hi, everybody. How are you?
Good.
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 I had to call in, Sean. I had to on this one because, I agree with you on a big point there. A lot of it's commercial hike. I went out there with Shelley for our paranormal, and we spent the night and had a private investigation. And the only place that we captured anything, and we actually got it on tape recorded evidence, and believe it or not, it was in Red Snyder's cell. Shelley actually still has the clips, and they were plain as day. As for the rest of the prison, we went on a private investigation, and I also went on one of those commercial hype ones where there was absolutely nothing that went on. But I think what's going on now, because they're hiring these entertainment companies to come in, and push the penny to get some money, that it's really taken away from any kind of credible investigations over there anymore. And I think that the people are kind of falling off the charts. So they need some more hype to pull it back in.
Yes.
Hello,
Yeah, Rhonda. Yes. Thank you for calling, Rhonda.
Well, thank you for calling us.
No problem.
Well, she said it, so maybe it is all hype to try because they're trying to get publicity.
Do you know that it costs 3 figures to go down there to investigate overnight?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How much?
100.
$100 a person.
125 a person.
A person.
A person.
That's about average nowadays, I
Till
think.
like 11.
But we can go to places where we don't have to pay and get better evidence than what you get down there. All it is.
Oh yeah, shoot, I could go to my backyard and
wherever taps, when they started, wherever they went, okay, those places, Eastern Penn, the last I heard, it was $2,500 for a night investigation, $2,500. So in order to cut it was that, honestly, and you would have to. In order to afford that, you would have to get 100 people at $25 a piece. And who wants to investigate with 100 people?
You do?
No.
All right. Well, moving on to our next
Why
topic.
are we moving on? I mean, why?
Because
I think.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was talking about this last night because I have a huge problem with places not making a profit, but using the place for profit and not improving it. So there's a lot of oh gosh.
Trish, don't you think they all want to make profit? I mean,
absolutely. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying a lot of the places around here charge well over $150, $200 per person. And but that's not going to improving the building or improving.
Yeah, they're not. They're just doing it for their pocket.
It's just creating even more negativity, especially for the spirits there, because it's like they are there for your amusement, and you're making money. It's like a circus,
most of it is all entertainment, though. Think about it.
I mean, I don't see it that way as medium at all, because I think
at all.
You go to haunted houses in October around Halloween for entertainment.
Yeah,
right.
Ghost hunting is different.
And that's what I'm saying. And that's the difference, because spirits can, one, give us a lot of information historically about crimes, about all kinds of things. And, it's like, I always tell people, how would you feel if you knew that was one of your ancestors, one of your relatives, and somebody was exercising that every single night just for somebody, for somebody's.
Well, yeah. Well, don't you think the family doesn't like that? I mean, if you're going to keep doing it, I mean, trying to, like, on the Blair house, all these people that live in this house. I mean, why do you keep wanting conjuring them up? Let them rest in peace.
Exactly. Now there's
so what it's doing is creating even more.
You do that. You round them up. You get them all riled up,
and it's creating more negative energy, not just there, in the entire area of the house. So I'm sorry. What was the guest from the Hinsdale house that his name just slipped my mind a few weeks ago?
Dan.
Yes.
Dan.
So he was saying they're doing things to improve the property, right? Mm-hmm. Fixing it up, planting flowers, stuff like that. And now they're having better experiences with interactions with the spirits there, which makes sense. Why do all interactions have to be negative and cause us like a jump thrill factor? You know what I mean? I think it's kind of cruel to the spirits, but that's because as a medium,
why
don't the spirits leave then? That's a question.
That's a good question.
That's what we're supposed to help them do.
Some of them are stuck there and they need to help go to the light. Do you guys help people go to the light?
Yeah, I do.
Like on Medium and Ghost Whisperer?
Yes, I do.
A lot of them don't. Some of them don't know they're dead. Some of it's not even. Some of it's just residual energy, and even with that, if you keep feeding it negativity, it grows. So.
I mean, come on, but Trish got a point. I mean, you get all these paranormal groups going into places, and I can guarantee it, they're yelling and screaming and calling every name in the book at these spirits just to get a reaction.
Well, basically at the Moundsville Penitentiary, you think these guys are all miserable? They're all in prison. They died there. They're going to be mad. They're going to be angry. They're not going to be happy ghosts. They're going to be mean, miserable.
What if they're all just actually putting on a show?
Negative energy.
Like, what if?
What do you mean? What
if all these spirits know they're dead, know the people are coming, and then being a menace?
Unless they're doing it for maybe they're doing it for fun.
We don't know. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows, Jen. But there is one place. There is one place, though, Prospect Place, down in Trimway, Ohio. The money that they get from the paranormal groups going in to investigate, they took this 1902 mansion, I think it was the year, and they rebuilt it.
Well, that's nice.
So they used the money for good.
That's good.
And that transmutes the energy there. That creates, that raises the vibration. So does, like planting flowers and stuff, because it's not just especially with prisons and asylums and stuff, it's not just the spirits there. It's also the building itself, the land, everything, everything has energy. So if you think of a building, a lot of people would say, oh no, that's ridiculous. An actual building cannot haunt something, but that's not true, because a lot of buildings are made out of wood. Wood is a living thing, or was. Wood has a spirit. So,
well, most of the shows, Trish, they're all for the money, because that's entertainment. That's how they make
That's exactly.
all those
Exactly.
paranormal shows, are all in it for the money, like anything else, like Elon Musk and his that leads us to our next topic. Um, he said that that's why I didn't understand what we were talking about. Yeah, I was listening to that YouTube video where he said that he was warning about AI, artificial intelligence. What if he warns us against it? Why is he making a chip? Why did he make a chip? Basically, it turns the human body into an AI. Trish, did you
I
look?
think yes, and that's one I had never. I don't watch the news or TV or anything 99% of the time, but this one, and this is just in the last like year or so, he started changing his perspective, I guess. I mean, I wasn't familiar with the things he'd done before. But he said artificial intelligence can elicit the next world war and would come out to dominate the world in one interview. And that was just, that was a year ago. And then he also warned in 2020 that AI will soon become just as smart as humans, and said that when it does, we should all be scared because. So I agree that, AI helps us, and why this came up, it does help us a lot as far as in machinery and things like that. I don't think that we should ever create something AI in comparison to humans, like an actual robot, because that's just, of course it's going to take
Well, he invented that what's it called? It's called a Neuralink that goes into your brain.
Yep.
And it's like a chip. Well, isn't that turning human beings into something?
Yeah, and
exactly.
The point was to basically be able to upload knowledge
you gotta think about it at a certain point, where else are you gonna make money with this stuff than to start into the AI and
but he argued and said it's not good and warns us.
No, because it will. So especially interdimensional things, even if you relate this to extraterrestrials who obviously can possess anything. They can possess cars and any type of electronics, your phone, your computers, things like that. So when you get a body for one, what do you think it's going to do? I mean, seriously, and then especially something that's highly intelligent. But what also I was thinking about with the Olympics recently, they were showing how all of the athletes, the place they're staying, when they go to the cafeteria or whatever, their food comes down from the ceiling, a robot makes it, and it's delivered by a machine.
Cheap labor.
Well, we're never going to have.
Nobody wants to work.
That's all that's going to happen. There's not going to be enough.
But that's another thing. Then the ones that do, where are people going to? I mean, nobody wants to work.
No one's going to want to leave their house because they'll be connected to like artificial intelligence, and you can say, I want to go to the beach. Okay, guys, I'm going to go to the beach right now. And I put this thing on my head, and you never have to leave the house.
And not only that, I was on the highway next to, I know people are going to comment on this about it, but I was next to on the highway when they had all the trucks that are automated tractor trailers driving up from Texas or wherever.
They're going to the
That's the scariest thing. If you're driving next to one of those,
that's scary as hell.
And there is no
new final destination. That's all it is.
You're like, holy hell, this is like Transformers, right? I mean, it's and they were all in a row, So, how do those determine? I mean, they've already come out with problems with Tesla being, people suing Tesla because their car didn't stop in time because they were taking a nap. What? Oh my God. Like, at what point are these things regulated?
Yeah, Elon is just another tech fetish. Forgive me for saying so, but I've met a lot of them over the years. Been a sci-fi author since 1986.
Tesla should have a model called the Siesta. So you can get a Tesla
Justin,
Siesta.
if you've been you're a sci-fi author, you'd have to come on the show. We'll have to talk sci-fi.
No.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Oh, it's just in case.
I like that name.
Just in case of what?
You need shorns.
just in case.
He's good.
But I think his opinion has changed over the years because
Oh, there's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
given
fair warning because it's obviously can cause some dangerous consequences. Well, yeah, it can because we're all. Oh, it's like one of those creepy movies from Mad
It
Max.
doesn't get pointed since he gave his warning. Now he's able to make money off it because
Yes,
people make
again.
their own choices.
Exactly.
So no matter what happens, he'll have a clean conscience.
Yeah.
Nina brought up some great points right there.
Okay, it's time for off topic. Sean, what's your off topic?
My off topic. I watched a show on Discovery Plus, and it was about vampires in America.
Oh,
Yeah, it happened to deal with out in Arizona. There's these two guys were called out because a lot of these cattle were having mutilations. There's a lot of cattle mutilations.
so it's the vampires that are doing it.
Yeah.
Are you watching Supernatural again?
And
I
so
love
no. I'll send you the link to it. And
No, I believe you.
I recollect an episode.
And then these two are going and interviewing different people, and they find the nest at an old trucking place, and they're showing. It was so fucking. Sorry, Joe. We're done.
We're gonna get
I
flagged.
don't understand. My question to you all, is there vampires in America?
Oh hell yeah, I'm a vampire.
No, I'm talking. Do you feed off of blood?
No, I feed off of your soul.
Did you ever see the documentary about there's a group of people that follow by all the vampires and actually, have their own ceremonies and drink blood and stuff. Yeah, they take it very seriously, and they're actually some of the nicest people that you could ever meet, from my understanding, from watching it and everything. And they put a lot into their communities.
Is this the TikTok couple that go on TikTok and they think that they claim they're vampires?
Mm-hmm.
No, there's nothing from TikTok.
Trust me.
There's there's different kinds. Like I agree with Jason. There's there's the ones that have an entire process of. From my understanding, obviously the people they obtain their blood from are 100% like tested and all this stuff. There's an entire process to it. And then there's the ones there's like underground, especially
right.
There's underground clubs in cities where there's vampires.
According to the show, though, honestly, according to the show, and they say that a lot of
believe
homeless people were missing.
Well,
there you go, James. The Nova, the New Orleans Vampire
There
Association.
you go. Because
look it up. Those are some serious people.
Are missing because the Nova team are going around sucking their blood.
No, negative. That's not true.
Joe, where are you?
Okay, Jason, what's your off topic for tonight?
Well, since we had Valentine's Day yesterday, what about the actual Valentine's Day massacre in 1929?
There you go.
Was it the north side of Chicago gang members? There were 7 of them. They got shot from the southern. I forget what mob boss they said may have been related, but they'd never been able to prove it. But what really caught me was these mob guys were so loyal to what they did. One of the guys that got shot was still alive by the time the police got there, and they asked him who did this, and he told them nobody. He said nobody did this. That's how loyal
they're loyal gang members.
Mafia guys and gang guys were, back then, and
sort of like Yellowstone, right?
So I was like, wow, that just kind of hits different, because
really,
where's our loyalty today, out there?
Yeah, there isn't any loyalty.
There's no loyalty at all.
Trisha, you're off topic.
Oh gosh, I had 2 on topics.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, why don't we ask Mr. Predictor?
Oh God, here comes the flea market.
Here it comes.
So that can be an off topic.
Did you get that from Trader Jack's?
No, Trisha, go ahead. What do you want to ask?
Well, yesterday at my job, somebody came up to me with it was very strange, and with an 8-ball, like a pool ball, and said this 8-ball's got a big chip out of it. do you consider that unlucky? And I'm like,
That is unlucky.
That's-
It has
that's-
yeah, definitely.
It's funny you
Okay.
brought that up.
Trisha, want to ask Mr. Predictor a question?
I have a question for it.
Okay.
Mr. Predictor Flea Market, a magic 8-ball that was picked up for 50 cents. Is Jenny going to get bit by a vampire?
Good question. Oh my God. What did he say? Yes?
Definitely yes.
There you go.
Sean, you have a question for Mr. Predictor?
I'll let mine slide for this month. Nah.
Oh, come on, Sean.
Okay. Am I going to lose more weight?
I think we know.
There is no doubt.
Okay.
That's a great one.
Trisha's turn.
Trish, would you like more?
Jenny, do you have a question for
I
it?
don't know.
Will Trish get married?
It is a certainty.
There you go.
Oh, Why? Why would I do that again?
Well, Jason hit the lottery.
Hell no.
It is a strong possibility.
There you go, Jason.
What's the possibility?
You'll get like a $5. You'll get one of those
It'd be
$5
like a $2 scratch off.
Hey,
Right.
I like that ball. That's better than the other one that I can't see. I have an off topic.
What?
Oh,
I am reading dogs that know when their owners are coming home. Can you see that?
Yeah.
It's an
they
old
are the
dog.
best alarm clocks, and just
And other unexplained powers of animals. Well, I'm going to tell you a little story that happened to my son, who lost his kitty, his beloved kitty, he's had him for like 15 years. Well, he passed away. They had to put his kitty to sleep because it was so sick. Well, you know how people grieve their animals. Well, for some reason he decided to go to Animal Friends. And there's a kitty there that says on the little tag, very shy. It doesn't like anybody. My son goes into the Animal Friends and he sees the kitty, and the kitty was sleeping, and he just went like this on his head, knocked on his head to wake him up. And the cat jumped, got up, was so excited, got up, and he jumped on his shoulder. Just like his other cat that passed away. Now, isn't that weird? And he's acting like the cat that passed away. Isn't that crazy?
Not at all.
That he's doing everything that this other cat did.
You know, I can relate to that story. I have a couple things. One is my mom's one dog took on a lot of like the personalities, I guess, per se, as her favorite dog that passed a couple years ago, which is really fascinating. And also, our dogs, no matter what route we take or anything, my wife just told me, I forgot about there for a minute, but they always know when we're going to grandma's house, and they get worked up. Like, we could take them anywhere. They'll be fine and calm in the car, but we could take separate routes to grandma's house every single time, and they just know where we're going and start getting all wild in the car and jumping everywhere. And it's just something else how animals, they just know.
It's like, how does it? I mean, what do you think is going on with the cat though? Is it possible that the cat can go jumps bodies or souls?
Reincarnation,
Yeah, reincarnate.
Why not?
But can
Why
they
not?
do that with a living cat?
Yes. Yes.
How?
Like
What
People,
happens?
people
what
can get possessed and stuff. Anybody, it could happen to anything. It's just energy.
So what
it's
do you
just
what
transferred.
happens to the other cat that was real shy? Is it just put in his someplace else in its soul, or do they have a soul?
Yeah, they just lock it up in a foot locker and put a padlock on it, and then the new one takes over.
But they say our souls can be in multiple places at one time, so there is a way they, especially even with living, I mean, not just somebody who's passed on.
I mean,
so
it's just too
strange.
I mean, it's like the cat is like the same cat. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's
it's highly, they say everything happens for a reason, the kitty passing, and then, he happened to go to that place in particular. And, this one particular cat, it's just weird. Everything happens for reasons, and it could be spiritual or it could just been meant to be.
Yeah.
You think it's that cat? I mean, there's a picture I'm trying to find. It's just too strange that it's the same. It's the same. They do the same thing. I mean, the way he took the picture, there was two, like he's sitting on his shoulder, and it looks just like the other cat. It's weird. It's really cool, but go ahead, Trish.
Everything also repeats itself. So because I noticed, like, I adopted my cat that actually decided to stay with my parents now because they live in the country. It was February 13th. A long time, like 7 years ago or something. And then just recently, coming up on certain years, I repeat these same patterns. So I just adopted Thor, recently. So
can you see that? You see how the cat's doing this? The one on the bottom is the deceased cat, and the one on top is the brand new cat.
Oh, don't say that. That looks like my cat.
They do the same thing. It's weird. Like your cat. Your cat's not going anywhere. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, the one with my parents, she's getting she's pretty. Well, I mean, she's not that old. She's like 8 years old now, maybe.
That's a baby for a kitty.
Yeah, but she does stay outside and inside, and there's a lot outside there in the country.
So speaking of cats, I remember years ago, it was probably 8 or 9 years ago now. My dad was living by himself, and he's always had a cat. Well, he didn't. This is after I moved out and stuff, and he didn't have a cat anymore. So the wife and I, we adopted a cat that kind of reminded me of one he had when I was a kid, named Shenzi. It was like an orange tabby. So we adopted this cat. His name was Julius, and we just dropped him off. Like, my dad wasn't home. I had a key, opened the door, we got a box and litter and all that stuff, set it in there, and just left. So it was like a surprise. Well, the cat was like real anxious. He had bad anxiety and didn't take to him very well. And it was coming up on Christmas time. And I remember my dad told the cat, he said, if you don't warm up to me by Christmas, then you're going to have to go. And believe it or not, Christmas Day, the cat actually just come out, jumped up on his lap, curled up, and just started purring on Christmas Day. So that was kind of cool, because he told me, he's like, this cat, it's clawing everything. He's beating me up. It's just not working out. I appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. And then, he told me what happened on Christmas Day. I was like, well, that's pretty interesting there.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Animals are, what's that show on for the 5 Animals are great. On the 5. Great.
Most people like their animals more than other people.
Hell That's yeah. True. I like my dog better than a lot of human beings.
I like people like my tea in a bag and underwater.
Oh my God. Mr. Grumpy,
I saw that. Somebody else come up with
tonight,
that.
Huh?
I forget who it was, but I'd give him credit for it. That was a good one.
That's Mr. Grumpy Fumpy over there tonight.
I'm going to send you this goth tea infuser. It's hilarious. It hangs at you. Yes.
Yeah, and animals are telepathic.
Of course they
Yes. So my kitten that broke her leg this weekend, it's ironic because she's the one that saved my parents, their cat, not the one of mine that stayed with it. So they have two technically, mine, which they still call mine, and then another one. But the kitten is the one that I adopted like a month after Thor, and I wasn't planning on keeping her, but she was crawling, on the floor of my car. And when I was when I came back home and I was going to take her to the Humane Society, because I figured, somebody would adopt her right away because she was really young. And she had this sticker stuck to her, like a sticker that said, please don't re-gift me. And I'm like, okay, universe. Like,
yep.
So, But she broke her. She rescued my parents. She left her mother and rescued my parents' cat. He was laying in a gutter, and it looked like he'd been there a few days, and his back left leg was broken or injured really bad, and they've ended up making him like a house cat now and stuff, nursed him back to health and everything. And he turns out he's her brother, but like from another litter, I guess. She went and found my son to go, like she left her mom to go find a human and led him back to my parents' cat. Well, she just broke her leg this last weekend, and it's the opposite side in the same place.
Oh,
so
that's strange.
Poor kitty.
So Mr. Crowley here said, he was talking about where he read a story where your cat would kill you if they could. So Mr. Crowley, I have to agree with you. I've heard throughout my whole life, if cats were about 150 pounds heavier, we would all be dead.
Cats are crazy, some of them.
They're probably way more intelligent than us.
There's some of them are little bastards. They kick, like if you put your feet over the bed.
Like, did you ever wake up and your cat was just staring at you and you're like,
yeah, they're like sucking your breath.
I would be mauled to death in my sleep.
Or if you put your feet over the bed and your bare feet, and the cat goes and attacks it. Psychopath. Mine used to do that.
Yeah, I got a friend of mine. Their cat's pretty cool, and if you sit there and like you put your hand over the edge of the couch, she'll just come up and just start swatting the crap. It's like, if that cat was about 150, 200 pounds, like I wouldn't be going over there. I'd be scared to death. It's going to beat me up. You know what I mean?
Animals are great.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
They do ward off evil spirits though. So I want to take Thor with me to like the next well, because they're good communicators with them too. So I want to take him with me to the next like cemetery I go to or whatever.
Yeah, you see.
Maybe tonight. It's full moon.
Hey, when you do that, Trish, film it and see. I'd like to see how the cat reacts in the cemetery.
I really do. I wanted to do that at the Sally house when I went there because I actually saw cat spirits there. So before I went there, I just kept getting this that I should take Thor, and that's probably why, they'd probably be able to communicate easier with him.
That's possible. Well, Thor would probably be all over the place looking like this.
Mm-hmm.
He does that. He does that now. He does that in my house. He'll be chasing stuff all over the house.
That's nothing.
That nobody else. Well,
so
I see them. Nobody else can.
What's your show tonight, John?
My show tonight.
Do your meditation again. I want to go back to sleep.
Was it that bad? My meditation?
No, I went to sleep. You
should have heard what she said about it before you got on yours.
You're a big liar. No,
great. There's I just don't like the way people are in the world today. So I'm going to talk about
how you hate people.
Two movies, Christmas movies, A Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life. I'm going to talk about those.
What about Santa's Sleigh?
No.
What about?
I'm tired of people being mean.
Sean, why don't you talk about like you're coming up to St. Patrick's Day coming up? Why don't you talk about some kind of leprechaun story?
Well, I'm chasing the leprechaun.
Little green man chasing you around with a pitchfork.
I am chasing the leprechaun right now, and I will be posting it on TikTok.
What do you mean you're chasing a leprechaun?
They say leprechauns, there's gold.
Okay, where's this leprechaun? I want to meet him.
Oh, don't worry, you'll meet him.
Go to the grocery store in the cereal aisle and you'll find him.
No. He's about this tall. Yeah.
Where can I find this guy at? I'm going to watch him. Where's he at? I want to grab his. I want his pot of gold. I want to beat him up.
I'm telling you, I'm going to be posting all my movements on TikTok.
Oh, right. I'm going to listen.
All right, good.
I'm not.
All right.
You're not.
We're going to check on out, guys. So thanks for tuning in to Chasing Prophecy. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to Torture Tuesday.
Good night.
Good night.